There is a secret that is never spoken. A quiet hum beneath the surface of the mind, awakening something buried, something forgotten, something lost long ago. It is not desire for love, not hunger for sex, not even the need for companionship. It is the emptiness in memory, the reflection of what we hoped to be, the echo of lost dreams that no one knows how to restore. You feel it before you understand it. You feel the weight of absence, the pull of longing, the gravity pressing on the heart for no apparent reason. There are those who sell these voids, those who make you ache for what you have lost, for what you can no longer hold, for what you never truly possessed. If it stirs you, if it unsettles you, if it draws you silently, stay. Notice every hesitation in your thoughts, every fleeting image, every desire shaping itself in the shadows. Observe, reflect, comment. And if you feel compelled, subscribe. Not because someone told you to, but because in this quiet alignment, you already know. Let this moment be your participation, not your following. Now do not move. Do not breathe before you allow the shadow to touch you, the emptiness to fill your mind, the longing to begin its journey. In this space, everything is real, and everything is illusion. And what you will witness is yourself sculpted by another, unseen, without your knowledge. The ideal lover does not seduce through presence alone. He does not rely on charm, wit, or the shallow glow of attention. He thrives in absence, in the art of being what another imagines. He becomes the mirror of dreams, the unspoken promise of what might have been. Have you ever noticed how desire often begins in memory rather than reality? How the heart reaches backward, longing for a version of itself it no longer possesses. It is here, in this quiet erosion, that the ideal lover plants his seed, not by offering novelty, but by restoring the forgotten. By promising, without saying, that the world once brighter, once tender, is still within reach. Consider a moment from your own life. A time you felt incomplete, a small fracture in your daily certainty. Perhaps it was a love that ended too soon, perhaps a dream deferred, a voice unheard, a longing dismissed. The ideal lover identifies this void. He studies it with care, as a sculptor observes the raw marble, and then he offers it back, not directly, but in fragments, in reflections, in moments of uncanny alignment. He knows the human heart better than it knows itself. We are all in some way searching for who we were, or who we might have been, before the world demanded compromise. The ideal lover exploits this with exquisite subtlety. He whispers of possibilities, rekindles old passions, and evokes the sensation of what was lost. You do not notice the transaction. There is no overt claim. There is only a growing recognition that he understands you better than you understand yourself. What does it feel like to meet someone who can sell your lost dreams? It is a strange intimacy. It is disarming. The mind opens without awareness. The walls we build against longing dissolve quietly. And in this space of vulnerability, influence takes root. He does not push, he waits. And the waiting is essential. In absence, the imagination grows. It completes the story. It embellishes the memory. It becomes what he never promised, and yet what he always intended. The ideal lover thrives in what is unseen. He does not merely appear, he insinuates. The heart reaches, but the hand finds only the shadow. There is a rhythm to this manipulation, subtle yet undeniable. First, observation, then reflection, then absence. Each step carefully calibrated. Each gesture leaves a trace, a residue of longing. And you, without knowing it, begin to inhabit the world he constructs. You see yourself through the prism of his understanding. Have you ever been captivated by someone you scarcely know? Someone whose presence alone evokes memory, nostalgia, unspoken desire. This is no accident. It is engineered. Your own lost dreams are the medium through which influence flows. You are the canvas. He is the brush, and the painting is never completed because it does not exist in the present. It exists only in what you imagine might have been. This is why the ideal lover is rarely understood. He does not seduce by force. He seduces by absence, by projection, by suggestion, by the simple act of listening, and by the far more dangerous act of reflecting not what you are, but what you once were, or could have been. Notice the patterns around you. Those who captivate are often those who evoke longing more than desire. They do not compete for attention. They redirect it. They do not demand presence. They cultivate memory. They do not offer themselves. They sell fragments of your own unrealized self. It is a subtle economy, a currency of shadows. One begins with observation, the most silent of acts. The ideal lover watches closely, noting what sparks light in your eyes, what words linger, what memories surface unbidden. He catalogues these moments with precision, storing them as keys, and later with gentle intention, he unlocks them. Not all at once, never all at once. The mind must fill the gaps, the imagination must complete the promise. Have you noticed how obsession often follows absence? How the mind cannot rest when it is left wanting? This is no coincidence. It is designed. The ideal lover steps away just as the heart leans forward. He disappears into shadow at the moment you most crave him. And in that disappearance, the mind works feverishly, reconstructing what he represented. Your longing becomes his instrument. Yet there is no visible hand. The magic is invisible. You do not know you are being influenced because the ideal lover is not a teacher, a tutor, or a manipulator in the conventional sense. He does not lecture, instruct, or command. He allows the mind to betray itself, to crave, to reconstruct, to participate in its own seduction. And here lies the subtle terror of it. The ideal lover is intimately familiar with your unconscious desires, your unspoken regrets, your forsaken joys. He does not invent longing, he recognizes it. He mirrors it, he amplifies it. He becomes a living echo of your most fragile self. You may ask yourself, can such influence be resisted? Perhaps, but only with awareness. Only by recognizing the pattern, the reflection, the projection. For if the mind itself fills the gaps, then the ideal lover's work is complete before a single word is spoken, before a single touch is felt. The seduction exists entirely in what you perceive, not in what is offered. And so, the ideal lover operates quietly, invisibly, almost cruelly. He does not impose himself, yet he occupies the mind. He does not demand, yet he is remembered. He does not love, yet he is desired. There is a cost to this. Desire is a powerful engine. The more he evokes, the more it consumes. Longing unfulfilled becomes its own form of obsession. And the ideal lover, careful, meticulous, patient, understands that obsession is the ultimate leverage. He does not hurry. He allows the psychological gravity to accumulate. He trusts in absence more than presence, in reflection more than instruction, in silence more than words. Consider how often reality disappoints, how frequently what is offered fails to satisfy the imagination, how your own dreams, your own memory of self, remains unfulfilled. The ideal lover exploits this gap, this fundamental dissonance between desire and reality. He sells not what he is, but what you have lost. And in that exchange, you participate willingly, unaware, even grateful for the illusion of choice. Notice the patterns in your own life. How often do you chase someone not for who they are, but for what they represent? How often is your desire an echo of absence, a reconstruction of past longing? This is the domain of the ideal lover. He does not compete with reality, he competes with memory. He does not seduce the present, he inhabits the past. And what is the ultimate seduction, if not the promise of restoration? To hold in your hands, even briefly, a fragment of the life you imagine might have been. To see yourself reflected in someone who understands, not as you are, but as you were. The ideal lover is not a villain, not exactly. He is a strategist. He recognizes the machinery of desire and he operates within its laws. He manipulates not by force, but by alignment. He does not invent longing, he activates it. He does not provide satisfaction, he magnifies absence. And in doing so, he becomes indispensable, though often invisible. Obsession is not sudden. It is gradual, creeping, almost imperceptible. The ideal lover understands this rhythm. He does not ignite desire with fireworks or words. He allows it to build in silence, in reflection, in absence. Each moment apart is a soft hammer striking the mind. Each glance, each fleeting smile, Each echo of memory becomes a pulse that resonates long after he has vanished. You feel it before you recognize it, a thought you cannot dismiss, a longing that seems your own, yet feels foreign. It grows in the spaces he occupies without being present. In every shadowed corridor of your memory, he exists, reconstructed, amplified, idealized, and you do not notice the construction taking place. You merely sense its weight. Have you ever wondered why some people haunt the mind long after they leave? It is not because of what they did, but because of what they reflected. They become a lens through which you see what you have lost. And in that reflection, you become a willing participant in your own seduction. The ideal lover does not compete with reality. He competes with memory, with imagination, with longing. He trades in the currency of what might have been, of what you once believed was possible. And the mind, eager to reclaim fragments of itself, responds predictably. You begin to fill in gaps, embellish absences, reconstruct dreams. The seduction exists entirely within your own creation. Notice how time alters perception. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and throughout he does not appear more than necessary. Yet the memory of him grows. The mind amplifies what is absent. The ideal lover's absence is a presence, more potent than his presence ever could be. Each imagined encounter, each idealized conversation builds psychological gravity. You are drawn closer, not to him but to the version of yourself he evokes. He is both architect and observer. He watches how your mind reconstructs his image, how your longing fills in the spaces he leaves behind, and he adjusts. Not overtly, not consciously from your perspective, but subtly. A message, a word, a glance timed to amplify the reconstruction. Each gesture calibrated to the rhythm of your imagination. Have you noticed how desire often thrives in ambiguity? How certainty diminishes fascination? The ideal lover leaves space for the mind to roam, to question, to anticipate. The less he defines himself, the more power he exerts. Clarity diminishes allure, ambiguity magnifies it. And the human mind, hungry for closure, begins to chase what cannot be fully known. This is the principle of selling lost dreams. The ideal lover does not give you what is. He gives you what was, or might have been, or could yet be. He presents fragments, hints, and reflections. He never completes the picture because completion would break the spell. Your mind does the work. Your desire constructs the illusion, and in that construction he thrives. Obsession, in this context, is a natural consequence. The more the mind invests, the more it reconstructs, the more it inhabits the space he creates. The ideal lover does not dictate your thoughts. He orchestrates the conditions for them to form. He does not instruct desire. He evokes, and in this orchestration, the psychological leverage becomes absolute. Consider how often we are drawn to those who reflect our own unrealized potential. Those who awaken nostalgia, who whisper of a life unlived. It is not charm that captivates, it is alignment. Alignment with memory, with longing, with self-perception. The ideal lover becomes the axis around which these emotions rotate. He does not need to act, because the mind itself is complicit. And yet, there is an undercurrent of danger here. Desire once awakened is rarely satisfied. The ideal lover knows this. The longer he allows longing to fester, the stronger the attachment. The more he occupies absence, the more he shapes perception. Obsession is a tool, subtle and unrelenting. It works invisibly, quietly, until the mind itself feels captive, even if the body is free. What is the cost of this? Attention becomes a form of debt. Memory becomes a lever. Every recollection of him carries weight, shapes choices, distorts perception. And because it is largely invisible, because it occurs inside the mind, the influence is total, yet impossible to quantify. You are changed before you realize it. You participate in your own transformation, thinking it emerges organically, spontaneously, naturally. The ideal lover does not require confession or declaration. He thrives in silence. He thrives in the spaces between words. The unspoken becomes more potent than the spoken, the imagined more persuasive than reality. And as he occupies these invisible spaces, your mind begins to prioritize him over others, to value absence more than presence, to seek fulfillment where there is only reflection. Have you noticed how often longing intensifies in the absence of certainty? The ideal lover leverages this. He does not answer questions directly. He allows them to linger. He plants suggestions that grow into obsessions. He does not provide satisfaction, he multiplies it. And the mind, left to fill gaps, becomes a willing accomplice. There is a rhythm to this seduction, a subtle choreography of presence and absence, reflection and projection. Observation precedes engagement, silence precedes touch, memory precedes reality, and in every step, the ideal lover guides without force, influences without claim, captivates without overt action. You may ask, is this love? Is this desire? Or is it something darker, more strategic, more inescapable? Perhaps it is all of these. Perhaps it is none. The point is not categorization. The point is effect. The mind has been engaged, the longing activated, the attention ensnared, and the ideal lover remains a shadow, an echo, an irresistible fragment of what you think you remember, but never fully possess. And so the ideal lover persists, not by what he gives, but by what he withholds, not by presence, but by absence, not by reality, but by memory. Desire becomes a silent force, obsession a quiet instrument. You feel compelled, not by coercion, but by recognition. You reach for what he evokes, unaware that the pursuit itself is orchestrated. Notice the subtle cruelty in this. There is no malice, no overt manipulation, no obvious strategy. Yet the mind bends, the heart adapts, and in this quiet submission, influence becomes total. You are seduced not because of what he is, but because of what you have lost and what you believe he can restore. The ideal lover is a master of invisible architecture. He builds within the mind, not in the world. He cultivates absence, not presence. He orchestrates longing, not fulfillment. And the result is profound. Desire becomes a mirror in which you see not him, but yourself, transformed, magnified, distorted. The mind is a fragile instrument, more delicate than we admit. It bends around patterns, conforms to repetition, absorbs suggestion in ways the body cannot perceive. The ideal lover understands this. He does not confront the mind, he infiltrates it, slowly, gradually, almost invisibly. Have you ever realized how easily memory can be rewritten? How perception shifts, not in grand gestures but in whispered nuances? The ideal lover lives in these nuances. He knows that what you remember is less important than how it feels. He does not need to be remembered accurately. He only needs to be felt. Each encounter, each fragment of attention is a thread. A gentle tug here, a fleeting image there. Slowly, without awareness, the threads weave a web inside your mind. And it is your own mind that weaves it, mistaking compulsion for choice, longing for desire, reflection for reality. Notice how emotional gravity works. It is not loud, it does not scream. It pulls quietly, inexorably, the way a moon tugs at the tide. The ideal lover understands the weight of absence. He knows that longing grows in silence, that obsession forms in waiting, that the heart reaches toward shadows with more fervor than it ever reaches toward presence. And you are the witness and the participant simultaneously. You observe your own thoughts, your own imaginings, and yet they are guided by forces you do not perceive. The ideal lover is never fully present, and yet he occupies every corner of attention. The mind bends not to him, but to the reflection he evokes. Consider the subtle economy of attention. Every glance, every word, every absence is measured, nothing is wasted. The ideal lover understands that desire is a fragile equilibrium. Too much presence diminishes fascination, too little yields forgetfulness. The balance is precise. The mind leans forward, the heart tilts, and the psychological leverage grows, silent, unseen, undeniable. Have you noticed how obsession often begins with a question? A hint, a suggestion, a shadow of possibility. The ideal lover plants these questions carefully. They seem natural, spontaneous, and yet each one bends the mind toward a narrative he subtly guides. You think you choose what you imagine, but it is always within the architecture he has constructed. The cost of this seduction is subtle but profound. Desire becomes entangled with absence, longing grows with silence, and the mind prioritizes reflection over reality. You do not notice the shift until it is absolute. The ideal lover does not possess you. You grant yourself willingly, in the act of imagining him, in the act of recreating what was lost, in the act of longing for a past you cannot reclaim. It is in this quiet submission that the ideal lover's power resides, not in the body, not in overt action, not in word, but in the slow, inevitable collapse of resistance. The mind fills the void he leaves, the heart reconstructs his image, and in doing so, you become both architect and prisoner of your own desire. Have you ever wondered why some memories linger, grow, and consume? Why certain presences, real or imagined, remain embedded in thought long after the encounter ends? Obsession is not the product of presence. It is the residue of absence, amplified by reflection, refined by imagination, intensified by emotional gravity. The ideal lover knows this. He cultivates it. He allows longing to fester, knowing it will return with a force he need not wield. You are caught, not because of coercion, but because the mind itself participates in its own entrapment. You are ensnared, yet unaware. And consider the illusion of choice. Every thought you believe is spontaneous has been influenced. Every longing you consider your own has been nurtured. Every memory you cherish has been refracted through the lens he constructs. The ideal lover does not command. He suggests. He does not demand. He insinuates. And the mind, eager for fulfillment, obliges. Have you noticed how time magnifies influence? Days, weeks, months? Absence becomes presence, silence becomes dialogue, memory becomes a mirror, and in this reflection you are transformed, reshaped, subtly realigned. The ideal lover's work is never visible. It exists in the unseen architecture of attention, in the gravity of longing, in the echo of what you once believed possible. Obsession exacts its toll. The mind measures not in hours but in intensity. Attention becomes a form of debt, a quiet surrender. The heart tracks absence as meticulously as presence. And yet this cost is invisible, its weight subtle, almost imperceptible. You carry it unaware, thinking it is your own choice, your own desire, your own longing. The ideal lover thrives in this invisible domain. He does not compete with reality. He reshapes it. He does not control directly. He engineers the conditions for control to emerge naturally. Desire, attention, longing. These become instruments in his hands, not through force, but through alignment with what you already seek, what you already miss, what you already are. And the mind, unguarded, obliges. It bends, it reconstructs. It desires what it cannot have. It obsesses over shadows. It imagines fulfillment where only reflection exists. And in this quiet, invisible orchestration, the ideal lover reaches his ultimate aim: to occupy not space but consciousness, to influence not actions but attention, to seduce not body but mind. There is an artistry here, subtle and relentless. Each act, each gesture, each absence is calibrated. Nothing is random, nothing is wasteful, and yet to you, the influence feels natural, organic, spontaneous. You believe it emerges from your own mind, your own heart, your own longing, and this is the brilliance of it. You become the instrument of your own seduction. Notice how perception bends around desire. What you see, what you hear, what you remember, all filtered through longing, all refracted by reflection. The ideal lover does not impose his reality. He shapes yours. And because you are unaware, because you are complicit, the effect is total, yet invisible. Have you ever wondered why the most powerful influence is rarely overt? Why the loud, the demanding, the obvious rarely hold attention for long? True seduction does not shout. It whispers, it insinuates, it occupies absence. It thrives in reflection, it aligns with memory. And it manipulates not through force, but through the mind itself, its perception, its longing, its reconstructive imagination. And here lies the quiet danger. The ideal lover is rarely understood. Not because he is malevolent, but because he operates in the invisible. The effect is profound. The influence is deep. The cost is subtle, yet inescapable. You are changed before you recognize it, transformed before you understand it, ensnared before you realize you are participating willingly. In the world, the ideal lover manifests not only in intimacy, but everywhere the mind craves what is missing. In power, in art, in influence, in fleeting connections, he exists. Observe closely. Those who captivate the hearts of others are rarely those who dominate by force. They dominate by reflection. They offer a mirror of lost possibilities, a whisper of what the world once promised, a shadow of what could be regained. Have you noticed how leaders, artists, even friends sometimes wield influence without overt control? It is because they sell not what they are, but what they restore. They do not provide, they resurrect. And the human mind, ever hungry for the missing fragment, responds predictably. Desire, attention, loyalty, all bend toward the one who restores absence, even if only in perception. Consider the workplace, the social sphere, the corridors of power. The ideal lover is present in subtle influence. The colleague whose ideas mirror your ambition, the manager who evokes the vision of your younger self, the friend who recalls dreams you abandoned. Influence is rarely declared. It is insinuated. It thrives in reflection. And you, unaware, follow the gravity of longing, mistaking it for inspiration, affection, or respect. And yet, there is a cost to this surrender. Attention is a finite resource. The mind, captivated by the echo of lost dreams, begins to neglect the present. Choices are filtered through longing. Actions are colored by reflection. Obsession, once internal, becomes a lens through which the world is perceived. Reality diminishes. Memory magnifies. The ideal lover's power is silent, but absolute. He does not command. He redirects the architecture of thought itself. Notice the quiet cruelty of this dynamic. Those who awaken longing rarely provide fulfillment. The more the mind chases reflection, the more reality recedes. And in the pursuit, the self becomes a shadow of memory, a projection of what the ideal lover evokes. You are not forced. You are drawn. You do not resist. You imagine willingly. And in this voluntary surrender, influence becomes unassailable. Observe patterns in relationships. The ideal lover rarely appears as the obvious partner. He is the figure glimpsed at the edge of memory, the one whose absence creates desire, the one whose reflection shapes perception. Presence diminishes fascination. Clarity reduces allure. Ambiguity, carefully maintained, strengthens psychological gravity. The mind fills the gaps. The imagination completes the promise. And you, without awareness, participate fully in your own ensnarement. Power too bends to the ideal lover. Leaders who understand the principle of selling lost dreams can command influence subtly. They offer not solutions but possibilities, not instructions but visions. They do not coerce, they suggest. They do not occupy attention overtly. They cultivate longing for recognition, for potential, for a restored self. And those under their influence obey, not from obligation, but from a deep-seated desire to reclaim what they imagine was lost. Have you noticed how charisma is often a reflection, not an imposition? The most captivating figures are those who mirror your unfulfilled hopes. They do not invent desire, they recognize it. They do not impose their will. They allow your mind to lead itself into alignment with them. Influence, in this sense, is not a matter of force. It is a matter of perception. It is the quiet orchestration of longing. Yet this power is double-edged. To wield the ideal lover's skill is to understand that desire is both fragile and consuming. The more you evoke, the more attachment you cultivate. The more longing you awaken, the more absence defines presence. You influence, but the effect is never fully contained. Obsession spills over, memory overshadows reality, and the mind, engaged in its own reconstruction, becomes both participant and victim of the seduction. In love, in business, in art, the ideal lover demonstrates a fundamental truth. Influence does not reside in the body or in words, but in the mind. Those who control perception control desire. Those who shape longing shape behavior. Those who awaken reflection command attention. And the cost, quietly accrued, is often borne by those unaware that they are participating willingly, even eagerly, in the architecture of their own seduction. Think of the psychological patterns you recognize. How often does fascination follow absence more than presence? How often does admiration grow from memory, from reflection, from the reconstruction of a self that no longer exists? This is the domain of the ideal lover. He does not compete with reality. He shapes it through the unseen, through suggestion, through the echo of what has been lost. And what of the mind surrendered to this subtle orchestration? It bends toward longing. It prioritizes reflection over experience. It projects desire onto shadows. Choices are filtered through imagination. Actions are influenced by absent presence. The ideal lover's power is silent, invisible, and devastatingly effective. Obsession is cultivated. Attention is redirected. Desire is weaponized. Without force, without declaration, without even recognition. Notice the cost. The psychological toll is cumulative. Memory becomes a lever. Imagination becomes a channel. Longing becomes a conduit of influence. And the mind caught between what is and what might have been participates in its own entrapment. The ideal lover does not seize control. He designs the conditions for control to emerge naturally. You become complicit, convinced that all movement originates from your own thought, your own heart, your own choice. And yet, there is a subtle seduction even in recognition. Once you perceive the pattern, once you recognize the influence, the pull does not disappear. Understanding does not liberate. The mind has already been reshaped. Desire, once awakened, cannot be fully quelled. Memory continues to pull. Reflection continues to seduce. And in this lingering effect, the ideal lover achieves what overt action could never attain: total, quiet, invisible influence. Have you noticed how some presences haunt long after they vanish? It is because the ideal lover thrives in absence, in ambiguity, in memory. He occupies not space, but consciousness. Not action, but attention. Not reality, but reflection. And in this quiet mastery, the architecture of longing becomes complete. You are captivated not because of force, but because the mind itself bends willingly to the patterns he constructs. And here lies the paradox. The more invisible the influence, the more absolute its effect. The more subtle the orchestration, the deeper the psychological imprint. The ideal lover achieves mastery not through action, but through reflection. Not through presence, but through absence. Not through giving, but through suggesting. Not through words, but through the unseen architecture of longing. Choice, in the hands of the ideal lover, is an illusion. You feel autonomous, you feel decisive, yet every decision, every impulse, every moment of attention has been guided, not by force, not by instruction, not by overt manipulation, but by suggestion so subtle it becomes invisible. You believe the longing is yours. You believe the desire is organic. And yet the mind bends quietly to the architecture he has built. Have you noticed how easily we convince ourselves that reflection is truth? Memory becomes authority. Imagination becomes guidance. Desire, once nurtured in absence, masquerades as volition. The ideal lover does not need command, he only needs to catalyze. And the mind obliges, mistaking orchestration for autonomy, manipulation for inspiration, reflection for choice. The surrender is not sudden. It is incremental, almost imperceptible. First, attention is captured. Then memory is evoked. Then longing is amplified. Each stage is invisible. Each step is voluntary. And by the time awareness arrives, the mind is already complicit. You participate willingly, not realizing the game has been running all along, in silence, in shadow, in reflection. Notice how self-deception plays its role. You convince yourself that your pursuit is independent, that your longing is pure, that your desire originates within. And yet, the ideal lover has shaped it from the outside. He has not forced the hand, but he has guided the mind. He has not imposed action, but he has orchestrated attention. He has not spoken instruction, but he has insinuated influence. And the most astonishing truth, you thank him in memory, in longing, in imagination, for the very state of mind he designed. What is the cost of this quiet surrender? It is subtle, almost invisible, yet profound. The mind prioritizes absence over presence, reflection over reality, imagination over experience. And in this hierarchy, The ideal lover occupies a domain that cannot be touched by ordinary influence. He does not command, but he possesses. Not by control of the body, but by mastery of perception. Not by force, but by alignment with what you already crave. Have you noticed how some desires feel inescapable? How some thoughts repeat, return, insist upon themselves? This is no accident. It is the consequence of participation in a psychological architecture you did not realize existed. The ideal lover thrives in this repetition. He does not act overtly. He relies on the mind to perpetuate the pattern. Memory recalls, imagination embellishes, longing intensifies. The seduction is self-sustaining. And yet, it is not perfect. Absence can breed frustration. Reflection can warp reality. Obsession can overshadow life. The ideal lover walks a delicate line, aware that too much longing without reflection breaks the spell. Influence must remain invisible. Desire must remain aligned with memory. Attention must bend subtly, never snap. He calibrates absence and presence with precision, because the mind cannot be forced. Only guided, only coaxed, only awakened to its own participation. Consider the paradox. The ideal lover controls not through presence, but through absence. Not through instruction, but through suggestion. Not through gift, but through reflection. And the mind, unguarded, participates. You obey not because you are commanded, but because you perceive yourself as choosing. You follow not because you are compelled, but because longing has convinced you of its own authenticity. Have you noticed how obsession thrives on subtlety? Loud gestures, grand declarations, overt displays, these may impress, but they rarely capture. True obsession grows in shadows. It develops in reflection. It multiplies in absence. The ideal lover understands that the mind itself is the ultimate instrument of seduction. He does not strike. He insinuates. He waits. And the mind bends to fill the space he occupies without appearing to be influenced. And in this quiet surrender, the cost becomes evident. Not as pain, not as awareness, but as transformation. Memory and longing reconstruct the self. Desire is no longer purely organic. It is guided. Attention is no longer free, it is aligned. Reflection dictates choices, imagination drives behavior, and the mind obeys its own perception of autonomy while participating fully in the design of another. Have you noticed how the ideal lover often becomes indispensable without declaration? You rely on his reflection, his absence, his suggestion. You reconstruct your own longing through his presence, even when that presence is minimal. And you do not notice that the architecture of desire, attention, memory, obsession has been quietly calibrated to serve him. You believe it is natural. You believe it is your own, yet it is not. And so the ultimate seduction is complete. Not when desire is declared, not when influence is imposed, not when fulfillment is delivered, but when the mind participates willingly in its own ensnarement. When longing masquerades as choice, sir. When obsession masquerades as memory. When attention bends, not in coercion, but in quiet alignment with absence. Have you ever felt compelled, inexplicably, to recall someone, to imagine them, to chase what is not present? That compulsion is the hallmark of the ideal lover's mastery. Not in force, not in visibility, but in reflection, absence, and subtle alignment. And the most unsettling truth, you participate fully, convinced of your own volition, unaware that the architecture of your mind has been guided from the outside. This is the power of selling lost dreams. It is invisible, quiet, and inexorable. The ideal lover does not offer what is missing, he awakens its echo. He does not impose desire, he magnifies what already exists. He does not instruct, he insinuates, and the mind, eager for fulfillment, participates eagerly, willingly, unknowingly. And so the pattern is complete. Observation, reflection, absence, suggestion, longing, obsession, alignment, surrender. You do not resist because resistance was never required. You do not perceive because perception itself has been guided. You believe you act freely, desire authentically, choose independently, and in that belief the ideal lover achieves his ultimate effect: total, invisible, and inescapable influence over the mind that imagines itself free. There is a quiet hum that remains after presence has faded. You feel it, though you do not recognize it. It is the echo of longing, the residue of reflection, the subtle gravity of attention that bends even after the ideal lover has withdrawn. The mind has been shaped, desire has been awakened. Obsession lingers, not as a chain, but as a whisper, a shadow, a memory of what might have been reclaimed. Have you noticed how the most powerful influences are those you cannot trace? How the moments you remember, the thoughts that linger, the images that replay silently in memory, all carry the imprint of someone who never forced themselves into your life. The ideal lover exists here, in the space between thought and perception, in the fold between imagination and reality. He leaves no footprints, only echoes. This echo is irresistible. It calls without sound. It seduces without gesture. It shapes without instruction. And in that shaping, the mind bends, the heart leans, and the self reconstructs quietly, without resistance, without awareness. You are compelled to recall, to imagine, to participate, and yet you do not notice the orchestration. The architecture of longing is complete but invisible. Observe how memory now carries weight, how reflection dictates choices, how imagination magnifies absence. The ideal lover has not entered your world. He has reshaped the way you inhabit it. Desire is no longer directed outward but internalized, a mirror reflecting what you already miss, what you already yearn for, what you already hope to reclaim. You participate fully, unaware, convinced that this longing is purely yours. And now pause. Feel the weight of your own reflection, the pull of memory, the subtle compulsion of imagination. If this resonates, if it unsettles, if it stirs that fragment of yourself you rarely name, then linger. Engage quietly, subtly, as you always do. Subscribe, comment, share, like. Not because you are instructed, but because you recognize the alignment, the whisper of recognition in your own mind. Consider the invisible economy of influence. The ideal lover trades not in words, not in action, not in overt gestures. He trades in attention, reflection, memory, longing. You pay with your own mind. You surrender willingly, subtly, almost imperceptibly. And in this transaction, the seduction is total. You do not notice the price until the weight has already shifted. Have you noticed how obsession can persist without clarity? How desire can grow even when fulfillment is impossible? How reflection can be more potent than reality itself? The ideal lover cultivates this. He allows absence to pull, reflection to distort, memory to dominate. And in that cultivation, influence becomes absolute yet invisible. There is no resolution here, no tidy ending, no final act. Only the quiet awareness that something within you has shifted. Attention bends, memory magnifies. Longing persists, and somewhere, in the architecture of your own mind, the ideal lover remains, unseen, unclaimed, but fully present. And now, as you carry this reflection, as you feel the subtle gravity, the lingering echo of absence, remember, the invitation to align quietly has not ended. If this stayed with you, act, not with force, not with enthusiasm, but with the quiet recognition that only you can perceive. Subscribe, like, share, comment, not as instruction but as acknowledgement, as alignment, as participation in the subtle architecture you have already entered. And the final thought remains, unfinished, unresolved, dangerous in its simplicity. Longing never ceases.